Hello everyone and welcome back to my podcast, Straight White Whale. My name is Darren Connell and this is episode, I'm not too sure what number it is, but thank you for coming back. Before we get into it, I want to thank this week's sponsors, McTassos. I don't know if you listened last week, but it seemed to be an hour of me and Paul just saying how much we loved the place. So hopefully they listened. McTasso is a Greek food truck and they've become that popular. They've opened a couple of businesses. They've got one at Kelvin Way, one at the Fort and one in Buchanan Galleries. Absolute shit hot food and it's called Gyros. You can get chicken, lamb or cheese and highly recommended. I said last week I was going to suck bangers for it, so I also said it cured depression. I don't think this is not a pyramid scheme. I only fucking get businesses that make me horny to sponsor the podcast, so nice this one, makes me horny. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, mate. I had my first McTassos on Monday.
Is it because I was basically saying...
I thought I was going to get my banger sucked, but there was no Darren Connell there in Kelvin Way giving out blowjobs. But mate, wow, what the fuck, man? I think they're fucking sprinkling crack on that shit, man.
Aye. I was thinking a wee Greek family there setting up shop and making some meals, and there's just hundreds of fat middle-aged guys waiting for blowjobs. Like, what happened?
Where's Dom?
What?
Where's Ange?
So what did you get for it?
Lamb. And I just was like, just slam it on.
Aye.
I hate that. So like, oh, what do I want? I'm like, no, do you know what? I was like to the guy, just give me what you recommend, but I want the lamb.
Was it chips as well?
There was chips, aye. Fucking hell, man.
What one did you go to?
Kelvin Way.
Aye. Wow. So it was the old boy, it was the guy that owned it?
I don't know, it was an older guy, but aye.
McTasso, I think. I just call him McTasso.
Oh, McTasso.
I know him.
Large Gyros and a blowjob, please.
I suppose that's like fucking calling somebody that works in McDonald's Ronald.
Or like back in the day when the guy that used to own the corner shop was called Jimmy, and then the guy's called like Malik. Do you know what I mean? He just kept getting called Jimmy.
Malik.
that was a real story. There was a corner shop in Carlton Square. It was called Jimmy's Newsagents, and a guy called Malik took care of it, and everybody would just go in and be like, Jimmy.
All right, Jimmy, that's not racist, man. Keep it in.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
You never know these days, mate.
I know.
Get cancelled a belter.
Who's getting cancelled? So I've got many subjects here that I'm going to talk about, but this week a couple of major things has happened that I want to give a shout out to. One of my comedy heroes who sadly passed away, Chris Farley, would have been 58 years old yesterday. So I seen it trending on Twitter and it sent me down a wee Chris Farley kind of rabbit hole. He never done much work. He died when he was 33. So he's not got much work on record, but you know, last night I was just kind of going through all his stuff and it's pretty devastating that guy passed away.
I know, mate. What happened to him?
So he struggled with alcohol and addiction his entire life, and he had problems with food and his weight as well. And his brother Kevin, I think it was Kevin, wrote a book called My Brother Chris, and it is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Chris was in and out of rehabs his entire life, and sadly towards the end of his life he just put on so much weight. And he went on a binge and he went to a hotel room with a lady of the night.
As you do.
They were speedballing, like heroin and speed all night, but Chris Farley was like £300 and taking cocaine, and he was gorging on food and stuff, and I think he was choking in his vomit.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And he might have had a heart attack. And when the woman was in the hotel room, he was like, please don't leave me. And instead of phoning an ambulance, she grabbed her camera and she took a couple of photos of him.
You're fucking joking.
Yeah. So there's a photo online which is heartbreaking. He's lying on his hotel floor. He's got rosary beads in his hand, and he's basically choked in his vomit.
Jesus fucking Christ, man.
33 years old, but I didn't mean that to be so dark there, but some of his stuff is just, I think people get snobby with comedy. Sometimes I just want to watch a fat cunt fall down a hill and there's no reason, anything about it. That's why like Charlie Chaplin was amazing, Buster Keaton was amazing, and he's kind of got the something like that there, but he was a genuine talent. He was an absolute scene stealer. I mean, there's a film called Billy Madison, which is a great film, right? It's probably aged a wee bit and it's become a wee bit dated, and you've seen something so many times, you're like, oh, it's not as good as what I remember. I mean, there's a scene in it when he's in a school bus and he gets hit with a sandwich, right? It's maybe a 20-second, 30-second scene, and that was just deep-rooted into my brain since childhood, how amazing that was.
Aye, mate. There's a bit in that where he's pure, Veronica's a hot piece of ass.
And so he's like, I hit that once, and Adam Sandler's pure, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
No talking on the bus.
I think, like, Chris Farley's one of the guys that I remember, I think the first time I actually learned his name was that Adam Sandler stand-up that he did.
Yeah.
You seen that?
The tribute? Yeah.
I can't remember what the stand-up, but they did the sort of 5 minutes at the end where he wrote the song.
Right, yeah.
That stand-up's amazing, by the way, mate. It's so good. I mean, I know that it's lit different nights and it's all edited together. It's basically like a sort of patchwork quilt, a stand-up. But that was the first time I was like, fuck, man, that dude, I was the same as you. He was pure imprinted on my brain. He was so like physical. His face, like his comedy would rip at him.
Yeah.
Do you know, like that type of, like Jim Carrey, where you're like, that guy's like a force of nature.
Yeah.
So I think he was probably like robbed of like a huge career.
Oh yeah, and some people have just got funny bones. I mean, you think, sadly, most of them have passed away. You think like Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, he was that level. If he was still alive, he would be, I know that people say Adam Sandler's not as funny as what he used to be because he does a lot of Netflix movies, but he would be just as big as Adam Sandler. I mean, there was this, when I was a young guy and I used to dog college, I remember my first pay packet, I went to Blockbuster and spent my entire wage on it. And one of the films was American Ninja.
Oh, what a movie, mate.
With Chris Rock and Chris Farley. And obviously there's hundreds of cameos for the SNL cast. But it's not exactly rocket science comedy. He's like, you know,
good though, isn't it? It's good comedy.
Amazing. It's funny. For a guy that was so big, he can do cartwheels. He's always falling through tables. That was just one of those films that makes me feel really nostalgic. And see, watching clips of SNL last night, see the amount of people that he makes corpse like laugh. It's a talent.
Aye, mate. That was called Beverly Hills Ninja.
Oh, what did I say?
American Ninja.
Oh, that was another.
American Ninja was like a pure serious, like they tried to make like a pure serious martial arts movie.
Yeah.
And like kind of like Chuck Norris. We're like, I can't take this seriously. But Kung Fu American Ninja. Mate,
Thank you for correcting that there.
Because
I'm ashamed of that there.
You'd get trolls.
Yeah.
Do you want to just say Beverly Hills Ninja? And I'll just I'll edit that in. Fuck, man, he's got like a pure hit list, man. See, for somebody that didn't have a long career, and I think even Sandler's on what you just said, like he would have been bigger than me. Like I think was he dead by the time Happy Gilmore? Like was that?
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking, why was he on Happy Gilmore?
Yeah. So it's a shame because I think this was a fact. See, Shrek. He was going to be Shrek. So he filmed these voice clips and voice stuff with Eddie Murphy, and there was only a couple of scenes left to film, and it was so completely different from the Mike Myers version.
Right.
It was a more friendlier version, but he was going to be the Shrek, and look how massive that franchise has become, like $1 billion franchise at 33 years old. I'm sure I heard a rumour that he was supposed to be Cable Guy as well, but Jim Carrey stepped in and Jim Carrey was like, I want that part. and they gave it to Jim
Oh.
Carrey. So I heard that it was going to go towards Chris Farley. Something rings a bell about Ghostbusters as well, by the way. But
Right.
so there was a couple of massive gigs lined up for him, and I don't mind talking about Chris Farley for this entire podcast because he's cool as fuck.
Aye, mate.
See, I watched these last. It's all ifs, buts, and maybes. I watched these last SNL, and it was so sad, man. The guy
Did it look
is
fucked?
absolutely fucked. He can't breathe. See the sketches that he's amazing at, really slow. And I always remember seeing a clip about Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald did the news break. So Chris Farley did this scene. He couldn't breathe after it. And Norm Macdonald had to wing parts of the sketch. I think he even said during the sketch, Chris can't get his breath back, so we'll just hang on a second and see when you watch it. I mean, Will Ferrell's in this sketch, right? It's the motivational speaker. He goes to a gym and he gives his chat, and he's just massive, man. He's drinking coffee and he's spitting up the coffee and stuff. And I don't know if Will Ferrell's acting in it, but see, if anybody, you'll find this, just put in Chris Farley last SNL appearance. Will Ferrell's on an exercise bike watching him do his speech, and genuinely looks fucking horrified.
Right.
Like he doesn't, he's just sitting there like,
What
this
the fuck?
guy's fucked. You can visibly see it in his face that he's fucked, and it's so sad. But see, the amazing thing about Adam Sandler is anytime he's doing a film, see if you look at the credits, you'll see a couple of Farleys in there. You'll be like, oh, who's that dude? So Chris Farley, I think, had 3 brothers.
Right.
One's a stand-up comedian, and the other 2 are actors. They kind of do bit part acting. Anytime Sandler's done a film, he gives them work. So he's kind of looked after Chris Farley's fucking
I get
family.
the feeling that Adam Sandler's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done some shady movies, man. I mean, that one, Click,
Yeah.
and even the fucking Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Zohan, that was shit.
Terrible.
I thought Click was watchable. Cheesy pish.
Aye, but I mean, when you compare it to like Billy Madison, Little Nicky,
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore, what else, man? There was one he did with Jonah Hill where he was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Mate, that's incredible.
Uh-huh.
It's like serious, but
Yeah.
it's like black comedy, obviously. Like it's pure
Aye.
dark, but it's still being funny. And there's a bit in it where he's like hired, because obviously like Adam Sandler plays guitar, he's like paid guys to come and jam with him. He's like dying of cancer and he just wants to like jam.
Yeah.
And the time runs out and he's like, oh geez, what, I just stay and hang about? And they're like, nah mate, not unless you're paying. You get that feeling that Adam Sandler's trying to tell you something, that like people in this industry, they just get left.
Yeah.
Like when the chips go down the way, because he's playing like a sort of failed, or not failed, but a has-been.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if that's got anything to do with like Farley. You know, like he's had mates that have died, and maybe when Farley's been in trouble, people have just been like, don't touch
Yeah.
him. Do you know what I mean? Just keep him away, and he's ended up fucking dead, mate. But he's like a comic.
Sandler.
Chris Farley.
Chris Farley, aye.
He's like always mentioned. Always, mate. The podcast scene, guys like Bert Kreisler, Tom Segura, they're always mentioning his name. So he's inspired. His legacy kind of like lives on, you know what I mean?
I think people love him so much. I think they love him so much because it's no essentially acting. I don't think it's like when you're watching him do a sketch, you're like, this is a troubled soul, visibly troubled soul that's lonely and sad and just wants to make people laugh. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Spike Mulligan said an amazing thing about the Marx Brothers. The reason why people love the Marx Brothers is you feel like you kind of know them. So like Harpo Marx has got this childlike innocence that you'd be like, oh, I wish he was my fucking uncle or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like people are like that with Chris Farley. I want him to be my mate rather than, oh, he's an amazing comedian. And I think that's why people like Robin Williams and Chris Farley, they are immortal. Like instead of just being like a shithole actor. But Adam Sandler said that about his films. He's like something along the lines of, I get paid 20 million a film. I'm giving all my mates jobs and I get to film it in like Hawaii or places like that.
Mm-hmm.
So who can blame him? And also, he might be doing shite in Britain, but do you know some of his films like are massive in Bulgaria and
Right.
like, so he'll make a shitty like Netflix film, right? And it's got all the same actors are in it that shouldn't probably be in it. And it's getting like 1-star reviews in America, but cunts are wanting to build statues of him in like Bulgaria. So
Aye. I mean, movies are an art, and
Yeah.
Adam Sandler's movies will make money. So I suppose the industry's not going to stop making them. And it's all subjective. Like, I like the one, what was the one that he did? He's done a couple of them where, like, Chris Rock's in it, that mad weird guy, David Spade, the dude out fucking King of Queens,
oh yeah,
Kevin James.
yeah.
What's that? What's that called?
Grown Ups.
I actually enjoyed that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a nostalgia movie. It's like the high school reunion.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. People were shiting all the top it, man. I was like, fuck it, man. It's decent. What's the one he would have done in Hawaii? Is that Couples Retreat? Is that Adam?
It
Is he in that?
was Couples Retreat, 51 dates, 51st dates with Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore. Uh-huh. Oh, mate, Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
Chris Farley would have been made for that fucking movie.
Oh yeah.
Don't know who'd have played, but fucking hell.
They say that Kevin James has kind of took his place.
And Grown Ups.
Yeah.
Right, aye. Ugh, well, do you know what, mate? What age would he have been?
His birthday yesterday would have been 58.
58-year-old man. Fucking hell, man.
Which is young.
Still a young. Aye, really? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Middle-aged, and he's been away, been gone that long. But I think, like I said, man, his legacy's lived on. I think it's
Yeah.
such a weird thing, isn't it, when somebody's only about for 30 years, say,
Yeah.
and they have such an impact on like culture and comedy, and everybody's still mentioning their name.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it,
Aye,
really?
mate. It's crazy.
So that's I love Chris Farley, basically. So if you've never checked out his work, I would say check it out. Tommy Boy, Black Sheep. You want to see a fat guy fall down a hill? There we go. My Bobby sketch was kind of inspired by that. I've got a sketch when I run into the station and I fall into the desk.
Right.
That was like, I thought about, there's a scene in, I think it's Black Sheep,
Right.
when his brother's running for president and he's going out and he's handing posters out and stapling posters on trees and stuff, and he just falls down a hill. And
It's just hilarious.
it's just funny as fuck.
Aye.
There's no reason behind it.
Who does the BBC own Bobby as like a character? Like, because you named him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wonder if you could tour that, mate.
Ugh, they've sold my soul to the devil, mate. I think if I came up with a Bobby show, I'd probably get sued.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be good.
But I mean, I would want that. If the comedy unit or the BBC offered me that, I would take it. But sadly, they've no offered me it. But if I went and did my own thing, I'd be breaking.
Wonder if you could pitch it to them.
Do you know, I've considered it, but I've been
Because that Chris Farley comedy, like that, I think that sort of physical comedy, like you're saying, is like up there with the best. Like you're
Yeah.
saying, it just corpses people.
Oh, aye.
Should just pitch it, mate.
Well,
We'll see. Down near you.
aye. 2 seconds, I take it out of this.
I want to cut the intellectual property. Get on with it.
Right, so we'll move on for the Chris Farley Love Fest, but what are we going to talk about? I'm drinking Monster, sugar-free.
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed recently was, when's the last time you had a can of Iron Brew?
What, full sugar?
Uh-huh.
Iron brew? Mate, 10 year at least.
So, you know, they've took the sugar out of Iron Brew.
Aye, they changed the recipe.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
So I've started drinking Iron Brew again, and every single can I've had has been full fat sugar. So what's happening? That's the real conspiracy. None of this COVID shit.
The bars are telling, AG Bar are telling the Scottish government that they've took the sugar out of Iron Brew, but actually they're fucking sneaking in through the back door.
But all these arseholes that are down in Glasgow Green talking about COVID and they've changed the Iron Brew and it's giving you cancer. Well, have they even changed it yet? Remember the cunt that was storing it up in his loft?
Mate, one of my mates, my mic just cut there. One of my mates went to fucking Costco and bought crates and crates of it when they announced that they were going to change the recipe. But he did that classic thing where he just drank it on a week.
Oh.
He bought about 6 months supply iron brew and it was gone in like fucking 10 days. So you don't think that they've took the sugar out?
I've not seen a sugar-free can. I've seen Iron Brew Zero or
Iron brew extra.
Extra.
Drink that.
Aye.
I have a wee can of that, bought with that.
But I've not seen regular Iron Brew that's sugar-free.
I don't know if it's sugar free. I think they reduced the sugar in it
All right.
because of the sugar tax.
But it's still red. You know how when you get labelled food and you see
Aye.
red, you're like, that's dangerous.
Just shows you how much sugar was in it in the first place. It was literally like 90% sugar. Just a sugar lump would fall out the fucking can, just rattling about in the can.
Before I came in here, I only drink Monster when I do a podcast, right? And my pal gave us a can of See Tyson Fury. He's brought out a energy drink,
Right.
but it's just a can of that with Tyson Fury's face in it. There's no ingredients. I don't know what flavour it is. So for all I know, my pal could have just brewed something in the bath.
Tyson Fury's piss in a can.
Aye. Here, I'd drink that, by the way. Fucking probably
Drink
good for
it,
you.
you dossa. Fucking, but honestly, mate, I've never had a can of Monster. So, like, my energy drink career ended when everybody was still on Red Bull. So I've never had one of these, like, fucking litre cans of, like, energy drink. Like, surely they give you the shits, man.
It's weird because when I first started drinking it, it tastes like shit, but now it's just tasteless. It's like coffee when you first start drinking coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It does a trick, but it's probably just a fake energy.
I don't think so, mate. I think it's pure taurine and caffeine and all that.
I know
that's in it.
taurine's good for you. Grows the old brain cells.
Does it?
Yes.
Right.
I took that, I bought that in batch, bulk from Amazon. £7 for a year's supply of taurine.
Was it gone in 10 days like my mate's great iron brew?
See, the thing is, but I was taking it and it was giving me like horrifying migraines.
Right.
But I was like, it must be good for you.
Is that the groan of your brain cells that you were feeling? Pure pain? Groan pains in your brain?
My hair fell out, I've put on 9 stone and all that. My brain cells, my fucking brain cells.
Taurine's good for you. Like, is it?
So, a couple of big things happened this week for me.
For you?
Yes, I don't have an agent anymore. For the first time in 6 years, I moved away from an agent.
Right. Scary?
Very scary, but the right decision. I just feel like, I'm not going to name her or the agency, right? But I don't dislike her and nothing bad happened, but we hit a speed bump and we stopped moving. And I was just like, I need to stop this. I can't do this anymore. Like, I just need something fresh. I need a rest as well from that fucking rat race of constantly chasing work. So I feel like I've started over again. I fell back in love with comedy again. The 2-year break during COVID was amazing, but it's amazing to be back gigging and not having an agent kind of hovering over you, thinking, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. So I'm going to take a break for a wee while from agent stuff.
Right.
Look into trying to get a Scottish tour in the go and just gig as much as I can. So
Is that the goal? For,
yeah.
like, stand up to make that the main thing?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you get distracted with that with Scott Squad?
I think I got lazy, mate.
Right.
Really. Doing Scott Squad, I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need to do stand up as much. And I've had a couple of bad experiences. Like, I've only had one experience at Edinburgh,
Right.
the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
What happened?
It was fucking horrible. You just a gig every single day for a month, and then at the end of it, you're hit with a $5,000 bill.
You work your arse off for
Yeah.
fucking 30 days and then you need to pay for the privilege of doing
Yeah.
it. What was it you did at the festival?
I did a solo show. It was my
did you?
Edinburgh debut. It was a couple of years ago now, but you know, there's a lot of people in this industry that are well off, or they've maybe get family members that are producers and stuff. So see, 5-10 grand to them is probably nothing, but 5 grand to somebody like me is crippling. So it was just, and then venues are taking large cuts. So there's a lot of it. I don't know now because COVID might have changed things, but essentially the Edinburgh Fringe is a pirate ship.
Right.
And it's just, comedians go there to get their souls fucking ripped out their bodies.
Right.
Because it's like the normal punter will be like, oh, you must be earning money there. And you're like, no, it's costing me money.
Does it cost everybody money?
Essentially, aye.
Other than obviously, like, if Mickey Flanagan does
Yeah.
Edinburgh Festival, like,
Aye.
his agent will be like,
So-
nah, you're fucking paying his fee. But
I get hit with a $5,000 bill at the end of it. That's
Right.
not including what it cost me to travel there
Right.
and food and fucking...
and stay there.
yeah.
Holy
So
shit, man.
It probably cost me $10,000.
Right. Is it one of these industry fallacies like, oh, you'll get so much fare, it's going to cost you money, but, the exposure, that
Exposure,
fucking
aye.
old trope. Aye.
So you'll do... Don't get me wrong, if you're a popular person and you're riding a waves, you'll probably get people there. But for the majority of people, it's just a myth. Because I did, say I done 50 gigs. I never seen any producers there or directors or talent scouts. And see, when you're doing a gig to a sold out, I mean, not all venues are the same. Monkey Barrel is a really good venue. The
Right.
Stand Comedy Club are very supportive.
Right.
But, I'm doing a gig there. I'm standing in front of a sold out crowd and I'm like, this venue is taking 70% of this.
Aye, that's shocking.
70%?
And is that, they're just taking advantage of the fact that you need to be there,
Yeah.
aren't they?
So it's soul
Shocking.
destroying when you're doing a gig. It's like £11 a ticket. Your pals turn up and think, fucking hell, man, you must be earning money for this. And I'm like, I'm not earning any money for this. But see if, like, say, my brother comes or my pal comes and I'm like, I'll get yous on the guest list.
Uh-huh.
So I need to pay for their ticket. So
Fuck off.
if my brother gives us a lift to Edinburgh, so obviously because he gave us a lift, I'm going to give him a ticket. But say I give one ticket out a day, that's £11 a day for 30 days.
Right.
So I'm getting hit with that bill as well.
Aye, mate, that's shady.
Yeah.
That's fucking shady as fuck. Obviously, like we're saying, the top enders they'll be raking it in because
And
the
venues
festival-
will add price. Venues will add shit. Like, I need to pay for the sound guy, right? So say that's £50 a shift.
So they're taking 70% of the door, and you need to pay for the tech.
Yep.
Do you know what you need to do? Just set that fucking festival on fire, man. Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's so bad, mate.
I mean, there's really, I can't remember specifically what venues are doing it, but supposedly even bar staff are getting bumped and not getting paid properly and stuff.
How come nobody calls this out?
It got called it a couple of years ago before
Right.
COVID.
Right.
I think the Scotsman ran a story on it, and I think some of the venues just know that social media is so powerful now that they need to fucking wind it in a bit.
Aye.
Because I'll never go back and do the Fringe again
Yeah.
unless it's for the Stand or Monkey Barrel.
Right. I mean, people need to vote with their feet, don't
Yeah.
they? They need to like, boycott the fuck out of that. But the problem is, as you know, there'll be people just waiting there to be like,
I'll do your gig.
Oh,
I'll
fuck
pay you the £5,000.
Aye.
Geese your balls to suck them.
do you know what I mean? Just,
I mean, I know people that still, I mean, not recently, but I know comedians that will gig with sex offenders in the industry.
yeah, just have
And
a
they'll
gig.
just be like, it's £30 a gig. And I'm like, but you're gigging with a beast. They just have no fucking moral compass at anything. They don't give a fuck. So say if I get offered a gig for 50 quid and I say no, they'd do it for 20. So
Aye.
it's just a horrible industry.
That's a problem with it, isn't it?
So what I'm saying is I'm glad to be away from my agent. I wish her all the best. I'm grateful for the help that she's done for me. It's been amazing. But it's good to start over and it's nice to get the gigs in, and I'm going to be trying my best. For anybody that's asking, I'm going to try my best to get some type of mini Scottish tour set up. And Paul said they'd film it.
I'll be there.
You're more than welcome to be my sound guy or whatever it is. And aye.
I think we'll get like people recognise. They won't recognise me. Maybe I'll be standing and talking. And they'll be like, "Are you? Are you that mystery voice in the podcast?"
You can be I'll give you a mic from the sound desk. Anytime I do a joke, I'll just ask you a question and shit. Because somebody else does that. I think there's a couple of kind of jokes like that, isn't there? Like, Home Improvements like that with the neighbour over the fence. That's kind of the same joke. And
I suppose it is, isn't it?
Little Britain had a thing when they were in a shop and he used to shout up to his
Margaret.
Aye.
Margaret.
I like that kind of shit.
Aye, it's funny.
Orangutans drinking tea.
Right.
You seen these videos cutting about?
Nope.
It makes me feel guilty for chucking being a vegan, by the way. Really. There's just viral videos of like zookeepers or whoever's owning orangutans giving an orangutan a cup of tea.
A cup of tea?
Like green tea though.
Right.
And it's like just an orangutan sitting, blowing into this hot cup of tea and then like you're like, these things are not that far away from human. Just put into Google orangutan drinking tea. And
I know a couple of humans that wouldn't be able to handle drinking a hot cup of tea. So, probably on a different level to some human beings. But why did it make you feel bad? Just because you can see the consciousness of the animal type thing? Right.
Aye. Mm-hmm. I'm like, aye, that is like maybe 20 steps away from being a human. Like, if it's sitting, chilling, having a cup of tea, like, it's got something there. It's got a soul.
Aye. Knows what it likes. Do you know that we're like 90% banana?
Really?
Like the DNA of a human being is a 90 or an 89% match to the DNA of a banana.
Wow.
So we're all, even the trees.
That's crazy.
We're all interconnected. Even the vegetables scream when you pull them at the ground, Darren. Come on. But mate. So what? Are they like? Is it a joke?
I mean, it's funny because it's like a monkey drinking a cup of tea, but it's not really a joke. I mean, there's a video going about there was a really famous gorilla called Coco, and if you Google Robin Williams and Coco, you'll see this video of Robin Williams going in and visiting this monkey.
Right.
And I never realised they were so intelligent. Like the zookeeper was showing the monkey Patch Adams DVD, and it was like at Patch Adams, and the monkey's like like knew that it was him that was in the film. And,
oh really?
Yep. This I think it was Coco, Koko, and
is this like an acting monkey?
No, mate, it was just a monkey that was trained in sign language, but it was full blown fucking talking in sign language. It's quite
That's crazy.
Quite mental. Like these things are beings. One of the zookeepers gave it a cat as a wee pet, and it was like looked after this wee cat and stuff, and it was sitting watching DVDs, and then you've got orangutans drinking cups of tea. Planet of the Apes, man, it's a true story.
You idiots, what have you done? Have you had many orangutan burgers? Like, why does it make you feel bad? I don't think we eat. We don't eat them.
I don't know, I'm just like in our lifetime there's a possibility that they could probably be extinct.
Aye. I mean, I'm sure there's different cultures that eat them. I think, do they not eat monkeys in Brazil? There are no places where you can go and get like...
Well, even at that, you think about the sheer scale of kind of cutting down trees and stuff. You might not be eating them, but...
They're still dying.
Yeah.
Aye, for sure. Aye, it's a shame, man. You ever seen the video of the cow, like, playing in the field? I think that gets people quite a lot.
Yeah.
With old veganism, like the cow looks like a wee cat leaping about in the grass, just having a good old time. Or there's a one where, is it the whales? Like they take away the whales' babies and the whales pure greeting. You're like, holy shit, man. I think, just because we don't know how to communicate with animals, I think they definitely know. Like my cat, one of my cats thinks I'm a fucking dafty, right? But the other one loves me, mate. Like, loves the bones off me. Like, see, as soon as it's weird as well. My missus will tell me stuff like, the door went and he didn't move. And then when your key goes in the door, he's pure...
He knows.
He's pure straight there. He's pure waiting for me when I go in the door. And I go into bed, he jumps up in the bed and he like, lies in my lap and he's pure purring away. So he literally, like, these animals love you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I adopted them when my uncle died of a... Well, he died of COVID, but they didn't come near you. So it's been like 18 months. They start to warm up to you. They're like they're the same as us.
Yeah.
They get it.
I never knew that with your uncle, man. Sorry to hear that.
Ugh, mate. Yeah. It wasn't so bad for me. My mom took it pretty shite, but Guy wasn't in my life. My prevailing memory of my Uncle Jimmy, he was a nice guy, but it's just one of the things, you don't, so I didn't spend any time with him. But my prevailing memory of him was I got a set of boxing gloves when I was like 13 or 14. And he put them on and he was like, oh, come on, thinking I fucking punched him, knocked him clean out. My dad was pure, yes, pure loving it. Pure loving the fact I battled my uncle when I was 14.
Typical Glasgow uncle, but getting you a set of fucking boxing gloves.
And then try to box with me and loving them.
And then you knocked them out.
To be fair, I was probably like, probably like taller than him. He wasn't like a tall guy, but that's my memory of him. But I passed away. He actually like passed away. He'd a bad back. He was a long distance lorry driver. Oh. And obviously like now they've got like springs in the seat. So while you're like gonna line, like the chair moves with you. But he'd been doing it for like 30 years. His back was fucked. Because it's just like repetitively just boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? Like his discs had all fucking collapsed. So he'd went in for an operation, and when he was getting the operation, they caught COVID in the hospital.
Fuck,
passed away.
What age was he?
I think he was 59.
A young guy then, fuck.
I'm sure. He wouldn't have been his 70, I think. When his recent birthdays, my mum was like, I'd have been 60-year-old. So, But I adopted these cats because they're black. Apparently, black cats don't get adopted. Like when they go to the cat and dog home, there's an 80% chance that they won't get adopted because the bad luck thing. So there was 2 all black cats, and me and my missus took them in, and I love them so much, mate.
What's their names?
They were called Charlie and Harry, because my uncle's girlfriend was
a
proper royalist, mate. Photos of the Queen and everything, like, and my Uncle Jimmy was a pure die-hard Celtic fan as well.
Yeah.
But I changed their names to Salem and Binks.
Salem's nice.
Salem's Sabrina's cat, and Thackeray Binks is Hocus Pocus.
Brilliant.
And I googled it. Apparently, it's not cruel to change a cat's name. They get used to it within like 5 days. They don't give a fuck. It's not like a dog. I think apparently it's quite cruel to change a dog's name because they really identify with their name. But cats are just kind of like, feed me and I'll love you.
Aye. Yeah, I like my arsehole fucking 9 hours a day.
Aye, mate. That's it. There's been a couple of times one of them spread shite over the bed. Come out the little tray with a wee turd hanging off his fucking arse and just jumped up in the bed and had a wee roll about in the bed like that. Thanks very much, mate.
See if you ever go in and see one of them drinking a cup of tea, man. It'll fucking fry your brain.
Like that. Oh,
you always hear about old Glaswegian cunts doing that. Oh, I've got a chippy for like me and the dog. You're like, what?
Worse. My dog loves a joint.
Aye.
Ever been in a house party and cats are blowing weed in a dog's face?
Aye, I've seen that. Aye.
Sake,
it's not that funny, is it? It's quite cruel, but funny at the time.
Don't know, man. Dogs like a beer.
Aye. Aye.
They do?
Aye.
They like a joint. My dog loves a bucket. Oh, Glaswegians were fucking rangians, mate.
You ever seen weird shit with cats? Like you walk into a room and they're staring at a corner or something? And
Aye.
you're like,
My cat meows at nothing. Just sits and looks at the corner and goes, meow. You're like, I'm scared. Stop it.
what you meowing it?
Mm-hmm.
Which takes me on to my next subject. Have we spoke about this in the podcast? Have you got any real life ghost stories?
We've not spoke about ghost stories, but we've spoke about my UFO experiences when I was a wee guy. We spoke about them, but no ghost.
Have you ever had an experience like that?
I would tend to say no, but I remember being in a house one time and hearing noises, and it was my mate's girlfriend's house, and I was like, "What's that?" And they were like, "Oh, that's my granny," and I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Your granny still upstairs?" And she was like, "No, she's dead," but she like, you hear noises in the house. She walks about the house, and I was just kind of like, "Shut up!"
Wow.
Just like, fuck off. I think I was like 17. I was like, go away.
Yeah.
Talking shite. That's not your granny. That's a fucking wind or something. But I've heard some stuff. I've heard some people that I know and respect and know that they're not lying tell me some stuff where I'm like, right, wait a minute. So what about you?
That's what I was going to ask you. I know that you've not had an experience, so you can tell me about this. I mean, I don't know if this is personal, so you don't need to share it, but I'd like to hear some of that. But I've got 2 stories, and do you want to go first? And then
No, on you go.
Right, so I've got 2 stories, right? And the reason why I'm going to tell them is because I was talking to an actor and a producer last night called Chris Martin. Funnily enough, he's from Scotland. And he was telling me about, I tweeted, I would never get a guest on this podcast unless it's somebody mental, like a UFO hunter or a ghost hunter.
Right.
And then he sent me a YouTube channel of these American ghost hunters, and some of the stuff was pretty like real. But I said to him, it's so real, it seems like a Hollywood budget.
Right.
Real.
Uh-huh.
So it seems like these guys are like a Blair Witch kind of filmmakers and they've done it as a hoax, but
Right.
it's too perfect. So he's like, I kind of get where you're coming from. Then we got into like, have you ever had a real experience?
Right.
He told me his experience, and I thought, fuck it, man, I'll tell him mine. And I'll tell you the first one, right? Have you ever done the Ouija board?
I did one. I like, but I get freaked out by it. I was really young. I was like 8, and my sister made one.
That's creepy, doing it at 8.
And it was me and my sister. So she would have been like 12. And one of my cousins were doing it, and I just kind of like freaked out. See
Freaked
that kind
out.
of way, like looking down the hall at nothing, pure.
Aye.
But no, I've never really done. I've not done it as an adult. I don't want to mess with that shit. If I'm
Yeah.
being honest.
You're there. Well, I had a friend, and when we were younger, anytime our uncle went on holiday, he gave her the keys to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be a mad party flat. But there was always rumours about the house being haunted,
Right.
and her house being haunted, because they used to play Ouija boards and stuff.
Right.
So I never seen any of this, but I knew that she said she was in her house one night and there was a noise upstairs, and I think they all went upstairs to see what it was. They came back downstairs and there was a voice message on the phone, and it was like all them talking, saying like, what the fuck is happening in the house? So it was like somebody was recording them.
Right.
She said she was coming back from school one day and she seen somebody standing at her window, like looking through the blinds, like actually lifting the blinds up like that.
No, mate, I just got a pure spine chill there when
Aye.
you said that. Fuck that.
And she walked in and there was nobody in the house.
Nah.
So when we were young, I think we were 16,
Right.
15, 16. I don't know what year that would be. And we went up to our uncle's house, and I had a friend, a girl pal, that was obsessed with all that shit, mediums and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, let's do the Ouija board. And everybody was out there fucking nut, right? And we were like, aye, all right then. But we never had a Ouija board. So she got a glass chessboard and she made her own
Right.
Ouija board on this glass chessboard.
Right.
And we were all in the kitchen and it was on the floor. And she was asking these questions like, is anybody there? And all that shit. Now, you know that way when you're steaming, you're like, oh, this is a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked it a couple of questions and the thing was like moving about, but it was all shite. It wasn't making any sense.
Right, okay.
So we were taking the letters down and none of it was words. And then I think it was like, is someone there? Is somebody with us? Something like that. So we all had our hands on top of each other's hands, and it was this pint glass. And I swear to God, right, the pint glass went like that as our hands were on it.
Mm-hmm.
And straight away, I was like, who the fuck is moving their hands? But it was so strange because I had all my weight down and trying to like put it flat.
Right.
So, and I couldn't feel
Resistance
anybody
against that?
pulling it.
Uh-huh.
So like obviously if I'm sitting there with you and you done it, I would feel it coming from you.
Of course. Uh-huh.
But I couldn't feel any of that shit happening.
Right.
And I'm flat out like trying to
And
fucking...
it was tilted?
It was tilted. Full blown tilted like that.
Right.
And then it got to the point I was like, gonna stop it and let's just get it done. and it wasn't happening. And the chessboard, I know that there was a lot of pressure on the glass, right? But the chessboard got fucking broke into like 15 pieces or something.
That's creepy.
And there was just a horrible energy. It was instant horrible. Like I felt dirty. And I've went from like steaming drunk to stone cold sober. Like
Aye,
that.
That adrenaline kicked in, did it?
I got up and I was like, I'm getting the fuck out this house. And I literally ran out the house screaming. I was like, I'm not going back in that house. And I went up the road. It was just, and that was like one of many stories that supposedly happened in that house.
Fuck that, mate.
So that was my Ouija board story.
Well, somebody told us a story, and like I said, that I know the person and I respect them, and you know, they've got no reason to lie. And they were saying it during lockdown. They went to a friend's family, like a friend there, one of their mates' families, like houses, just to get away during like one of the lockdowns, and they went there. And they were just kind of like all night, like something just doesn't feel right, like that, like you're saying, like something feels off, like what's going on. And then during the night, they heard a loud bang, and they were texting each other in separate rooms. Like, was that you? Was that you? No. And they got up, and the chair that was on the decking was upside down, and they were like, "What the fuck?" And then the guy. They were just didn't think anything of it, and then the guy that owned the place, or like his family owned the place, told his parents, and they were like, and his brother had died, and they were like, he hated that chair.
Fuck.
And I was just like, nah, man. And even as I told you that, I get a wee chill. I think that's like when you know something's kind of like off. There's a thing with the Scottish Ghost Hunting Society. They were in the Daily Record, did they, mate?
Really?
Aye, something to do with video footage of a door just randomly opening, like slowly opening in one of their ghost hunts, and they go to like, so I think they're planning on doing the bars.
Mate, that's the only reason why I brought that up. I am open. It's almost an open invitation to get somebody on, a medium or ghost hunters or UFO people, but I believe that story, mate. I believe you. It's one of those ones, isn't it? Like I had a cousin. He used to live in Sighthill when he was a wee guy, and now he is staunch, non-religious, doesn't believe in anything, right? Probably an atheist, like just everything's science to this guy. And he's got a story of when he was a wee guy, he said he went into a cupboard in his old house in Sighthill, and he said he felt a presence actually lift him up, and he was hovering off his feet. And it's just one of these stories that have been in the family. He doesn't really brag about it. He's one of these guys when you're like, can you tell that story? He doesn't really want to tell it. And that type of shit. So I'm like, but how could that have happened? And he just says,
well, the Comedy Store in LA is supposed to be haunted, isn't it?
Yeah.
That used to be a gangster sort of place, nightclub, and they've got like a couple of rooms, one in the basement and one in, so like the belly room, and there's one at the very top of the place. And loads and loads and loads of stand-up comedians have told weird stories. Everybody tells a very similar story about one, like a light, but there's no source for the light. It's like a dark room, and there's a spotlight in the middle of the stage, and when they go and look, there's like no light. And one is, I'm sure, a guy, like you can see a guy sort of playing a musical instrument on the stage, but there's no sound, and then when you go near it, it just goes away. And I think like I've heard a couple of different theories. One of them is people that are sudden death, like hit by a car, shot like in the head, they don't realise they're dead. And that's what ghosts are. So they're caught between the afterlife and this life, and this sort of like weird sort of between where they don't know that they're dead. And that's why you get people that are like, they were like try to get them to go to the house or whatever, like old guy dies in his sleep or whatever in the house, and then all of a sudden weird things are happening and people are like, I need to go to this house. And I think maybe I'm open to it. I'm like so open to it because we don't understand shit like so much that we don't fucking understand. I quite like the idea that time isn't really linear. and sometimes we just see things. You know what I mean? Like something's almost like an imprint for a past, so something's happened in that place, and it just sort of like you see a bit of it or something like that.
Well, see, since I took ayahuasca, it definitely made me think there's something beyond this. I don't know if it's ghosts, I don't know if it's a heaven, but there is something else there. And, you know, it's like you only use 20% of your brain or something. That's something that opens your brain and you get to see what normally you don't see. I think, anyway, we're taking that.
Aye, absolutely. What did you see?
When I took ayahuasca, well, it's so weird, man. It's like it's like traveling through another dimension with your soul.
Right.
You just see, you're like, oh, this has been about for 20,000 years. These people have took it for so long. They class it as a medicine. It's so hard to describe.
Well, I've smoked DMT.
It's like DMT times a million.
It lasts longer. I think like the way that I've had it explained to me is that ayahuasca is like an IV drip of, you know, paracetamol, and DMT is like shooting heroin into your vein. Like, yeah, it's over and done with in that 10-15 minutes. But I'm with you, mate. See, since I smoked DMT, I'm like, mate, I have seen the afterlife 100%. Like, I'm no longer scared of death.
Yeah.
And I think there is something. It's not a big guy with a big white beard, and it's no like you don't go and see your family like pure. Oh, we've been waiting for you. It's more of a something different. Like you wouldn't know it unless you've seen it. You know what I mean? It's like everything and nothing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you can see everything and you can manipulate everything. It's like a weird sort of experience.
You also hear, like, my mum used to work in an old folks home, right? And I don't know if it's common within old folks homes. Maybe it was just, I think a lot of the nurses came from like Thailand and stuff. And part of their culture is they're really big believers in that stuff. So I think anytime an old person passes away, they would like go around and open all the windows, and it would be like
let their soul leave.
Get their soul out. So I don't know if that's common in old folks' homes or it was just those people.
Did you ever heard about like the Vietnamese guys that they came here? There's like a story. She tells it in that Gran Torino movie with Clint Eastwood. The wee girl tells him it, where all of the men, it's Laos. Is Laos in Vietnam?
I'm not too sure.
I think Laos might be its own place, like right next to Vietnam. But it was like this group of families that immigrated to America for like the hills of Laos, right? And all of the men died in their sleep.
Wow.
And some of them survived, and they all told the same thing. They seen the hills of Laos, and it was like they were like, you need to come home. And so many, like a huge percentage of these guys didn't wake up.
Wow.
So there's shit that we don't understand, mate. Like we don't understand it. Like my dad was on heart transplant list to get a triple heart bypass, and he died on the operating table. And he said to me, like, I fucking seen that. I seen it. Like I was there. Seen myself in the operating table, went, and they were like, oh, you're not ready, you need to go back.
Wow.
And my dad didn't lie to me, mate. He was, you know, he was a lot of things like that, you know, but he was not a liar. He venomously hated people lying. And he would be like, I'm not lying to you, man. Like, I've fucking seen it.
Do you think that gave you some comfort then when your dad passed away?
I know. I think there was a bit of me that was just kind of like, aye, well, okay, whatever. You know, you might not have been dead, or you might have been just hallucinating that shit. But when he came back, they were like, "Aye, flatlined."
Wow.
So it was I think since I took the DMT, I've been like, right, now I believe. It's almost like seeing is believing. Like I didn't have that sort of blind faith.
Yeah.
And then there's DMT in your pineal gland, and that releases when you're about to die, and all these things where you're like, I think there's something here. You know.
Yeah.
What a deep conversation that
It
we're
is
having on this podcast.
Well, it's about to get deeper because I'm about to tell you my second story.
Right, let's go.
And it's like, this is one of those stories when it happens, you're like, I'm going to take this to the grave. So a couple of years ago, I had an uncle called Jerry, right?
Right.
And it was my mum's brother. and he was a great guy. At the time when it happened, I thought, I'm never going to tell anybody because I feel like I'll get judged, but I've told quite a lot of friends now, and then I told Chris last night, and Chris was like, you should probably say that on your podcast. So years ago, Jerry moved to London when he was 18, and he was a brickie, but sadly he was an alcoholic, and he dabbled in drugs, and I think he got so extreme it made him mentally and physically ill. So for the rest of his life, he had to take medication. I think he was paranoid schizophrenic, but he was a great guy. He just had this illness through alcoholism. So because he was on this medication and all this type of shit, he chain smoked. He smoked like 40 cigarettes a day. He drank like something outrageous, like fucking, honestly, 6 litres of Diet Coke a day or something for the bottle. But and see, to actually see that, it was quite disgusting because he smoked like that, and he just guzzled Diet Coke.
Right.
He put on a shitload of weight, lost all his hair because he was a young, handsome guy. And I remember one night I had a dream about him, and in the dream, I felt like I was a child. I couldn't see myself, but I felt like I was about 6 or 7 or something. And he was sitting on the couch, and I was sitting on the carpet, and I was like kind of on his leg. And I remember looking at him, and I was like, Jerry, you look amazing. And he was young, he had hair, and he was wearing this stupid fucking like purple velvet suit. It was so like real.
Vivid.
That's the term. I was like, Jerry, you look amazing, mate. And he was like, I'm better. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm better now. You don't need to worry. And I was like, what do you mean I don't need to worry? And he's like, I don't drink Diet Coke and I don't smoke. And I was like, what, you don't smoke? And he's like, yeah, honestly, don't worry about it, I'm all right. And I was like, amazing, mate. Like, you look amazing. I'm so happy. And he's like, And he just smiled. I woke up the next day, right? I woke up and I felt like, see, I can only describe it like a bicycle pump, right? I felt like a bicycle pump was in my mouth, and somebody did that with oxygen out my mouth, out my body. It was like a like that. I walked downstairs, cold fucking sweat, and I done that to my mum. I had the fucking weirdest dream about Jerry last night, and she just looked at me like, are you fucking serious? And I was like, I had a dream about Uncle Jerry. And she's like, you taking the fucking piss? I was like, no. Like, what? And she done that. Your Uncle Jerry died last night.
No way, man. Fuck off.
He had a heart attack and he died in his sleep. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
That's creepy, mate.
So, because it happened so long ago, I'm not 100% sure of the exact time frame, right? But we've got a duffel bag of family photos in the loft. And it's been up there for 30 fucking years, right? We were looking through all these old photos and that. And my mum was like looking at this fucking photo. And she was like, look at that. And it was...
Is he in the purple suit?
Yep.
Nah. Get that
standing,
in the bin, mate.
Slim, handsome.
Mate, how the fuck did you not freak out when you seen that photo?
Do you know, I feel like at the time I freaked out.
Right.
But see, now that I've matured, I take great comfort.
Aye, a bit of comfort in it.
At first it was scary, the dream was scary, but it's made me realise I feel like if there is an afterlife, that was a message. And it, you know, I told a couple of family members, quite a lot of them were like, you're full of shite. My mum wasn't.
Right.
And I mean,
well, she's seen it. She was there. She's heard you tell her that you had the dream before you knew that the guy had passed away. So that's why she won't be doubting it. Do you know what I mean? But what a story that is, mate. What a way to round off the episode as well, mate. Wow.
Yep.
Like, that's a fucking great story.
So that's my story. I don't know if it's a ghost story. I don't know what it is, but that is my kind of my my story about that.
We should definitely get some sort of medium in to do something freaky in here, man.
Aye.
I'd be well up for it.
Would you do a Ouija board?
Absolutely.
We'll look into it, but look, I know that's like a really fucking intense subject to finish a podcast off. I feel better for getting that off my chest. Strangely, I don't really know this guy, Chris, right? See, when I told Chris it last night, I got really emotional and I was crying, but it wasn't sad. It was just hard to describe. It was like relief. But look, we'll wrap up with that because there's another podcast person coming in. An hour is more than enough. I think we've done more than an hour.
Aye, we're just past hour now, mate.
How much?
105.
105. Look, guys, thank you. That was quite a strange episode.
Aye, it was good though, mate. I enjoyed that.
I just want to thank McTassos for fucking sponsoring the podcast.
A haunted food van.
I know, last week I was like, Ange Postecoglou's getting his cock sucked. This week I'm like, my fucking dead Uncle Jerry visited me in a dream. Anyway, McTassos do the lamb fucking gyros. Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for your support. If you like it, please donate a coffee. If you can't share it online, send it amongst your mates. Take care and see you next week. Thank you very much, Paul.
Beautiful.
Love you.
Love you too.